So I'm going to talk a little bit before we go into a formal tapping round. So because this could bring up different issues, please go ahead and start tapping already. You just tap the collarbone or just one of any of the points, or maybe just tapping through all the points as I go through this. So being politically correct, it's an issue that comes up a lot, and here's my take on it. In an ideal world, we shouldn't have to be politically correct. And now before you get upset about that, or before you get excited about that and go, heck yeah, let me explain what I mean by that. See, to be politically correct means to deliberately stop ourselves from saying something that we know could be offensive, hurtful, disrespectful. You know, we can't, it's something we have to do deliberately. If we don't know that something would be offensive or disrespectful, then we couldn't possibly make the choice to be politically correct. So it's a deliberate action that we take, knowing that what we're about to say could be offensive. It's like, oh, you know, this would hurt people, but I'm going to be politically correct. I'm going to stop myself. So here's the question. If you know it would be hurtful or offensive, why would you want to say it anyway? And it's not because we're bad or stupid. It's not because we're evil. It's because there's stuff going on inside of us that causes us to want to say these things. So in an ideal world, we wouldn't have any of that stuff. We just wouldn't say offensive, disrespectful things. We would be courteous to people because that's our true nature. Our true nature is to be kind and loving towards one another. If we clear this internal violence, whether that violence comes out physically or just verbally, or even just in our thoughts, as we clear that out, we let go of any need to have political correctness because we wouldn't have to deliberately stop ourselves from doing something that we just naturally wouldn't do. And likewise, with political correctness, there's a part of us that wants other people to be politically correct with us because we're offended. In an ideal world, it's because we're often walking around with buttons, sometimes really big buttons that people are pushing. These people are pushing my buttons that are upsetting me. And while it's wrong for people to say offensive things, to be hurtful, we also don't want to be like we're walking around without a shirt on through a rose garden where we expose ourselves, because in a rose garden there are thorns. In the world there are people who aren't thinking, who don't know any better, and so we don't want to be that vulnerable. So while it's absolutely right to say to somebody, I don't appreciate your thoughts, I don't appreciate your comments, that was hurtful, please don't say that again, we also want to have the strength to not be crushed by these people. Hope that makes sense. So, and when that happens, that's because there's something inside of us as well. And generally, it's also a violence inside of us. We already have this violence inside of us that we have these buttons attached to, so that when someone says something that's not politically correct, it pushes our button, triggers that internal violence, and we feel this upset. So whether it's a matter of needing people to be politically correct, or needing to be politically correct to stop ourselves from being jerks, which we are often prone to do as human beings, it's about this violence inside that we want to clear. So, please take full responsibility for your own well-being as you tap along. Even though I have this violence inside, I choose to love and accept myself anyway. Even though I have this upset inside, I choose to love and honor myself anyway. Even though I have this violence inside, that causes me to treat people poorly, or causes me to be hurt by other people, either way, I get upset. and I do harm to myself and others. And even though I have this violence inside, I choose to deeply and completely love, honor, and accept myself. And maybe everyone else. Because everybody's doing the best they can, given the way their minds are working. And some aren't working as well as they should. And I choose to be the change that I wish to see in the world. All this violence inside, all this upset inside, all this fear inside, it causes me to say hurtful things, or it causes me to feel hurt. Sometimes I have to stop myself from saying or doing hurtful things. And it can be really annoying stopping myself. But I don't want to just let loose. Because when I harm others, I'm harming myself. So I choose to clear whatever is inside of me that causes me to think these hurtful thoughts. I won't have to stop myself from being harmful. When I'm no longer compelled to be harmful. So what makes me think these thoughts? What makes me want to say these things in the first place? What's going on inside of me that says, yeah, let's say this? What makes me think that's a good idea? And it's not just that I'm bad or stupid. I may have some really messed up programming. And there's probably a lot of fear underneath that. Maybe a lot of anger under that. And there's usually more fear underneath that anger. So instead of indulging in that and lashing out, even if I just think I'm being funny, which is often one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves, I choose to clear whatever's going on inside of there. Letting that go at a cellular level. And sometimes this upset is in there. And it's what causes me to feel hurt when people say things. And while I don't need to tolerate that, and I have a right to point out to people when they've been offensive, I don't want to wait until everybody else says all the right things before I can feel safe in this world. So I'm cutting the wires to all those buttons that get pushed. So I can point out to people, what you're saying is offensive. Not simply to protect myself, but to also help them be aware that they probably have some stuff inside to clear. And they may not be ready to clear it. And I don't want to wait until they are, before I can experience happiness. I'm clearing this violence inside so that I can feel peace, so that I can speak peace. I choose to be peace in body, mind, and spirit. And take a deep breath. Allow the rinse repeat as necessary. Thank you for doing that.